I'm giving somebody the blues today.
So you guys know Jason? Basically this guy. You guys seen his profile picture? A lot of people aren't the biggest fans of him. I do like his passion. He's very passionate, but he just has some of the craziest takes. Bro said, Moonsault and me may disagree on a lot of things, but we can agree on Twitter politics is gross. By the way, I have a response video coming your way. A little bit later, bro said this, and this is what we're going to react to. One of Moonsault points on his videos said, new moves destroy character identity. And I just had another person ask me basically the same question. So here's a video that provides a more balanced approach than the hyperbolic character identity destruction false narratives. Tekken 8 Season 2 new moves do not destroy identity. The difference between destruction and evolution. So we're going to watch this video. So basically Monty was trying to give leeway to Tekken 8 with these points. Players overreacted to Season 2, spreading more negativity than constructive criticism. 2. Japan Evo proved that defense wasn't dead and people should have learned to adapt instead of complain. And this is the point that I disagreed with, because yes, a pro player who spends hours labbing this game can stop some of this stuff, but the average player doesn't spend that amount of time, and they didn't need to. You didn't need to play Tekken 5 for 8 hours in order to play defense. Only Tekken 8, you need to spend the amount of time of a pro player to play defense. And that's the problem, is that offense requires no skill, but in order to play defense, you have to have a perfect grasp of the concept of sidestepping, punishment, interrupts, poking, backdash. It's not what it should be.
So point one, you said, new moves erase weakness, thus destroying identity. Yes, each character gets about 1 to 3 new moves, and it's a small change when you look at an entire character's toolkit of hundreds of moves. And even if a player doesn't use the 100 moves and they just use, we'll say 20, 30 moves, it usually ends up to be about a 1 to 4% change in their toolkit. That means about 96 and 99% of the character remains. But I understand your claim, because it's not about quantity, and that's fair, what you're saying. It's that these moves erase core weaknesses and alter identity, is what you're saying.
When you look at Kazuya's new move, that one move was erasing his weakness, and that's the sidestep. Heihachi was given a new move, I believe it was his back three. That move was described by the developers themselves. This covers up one of his weaknesses.
Another useful move is back right kick. So this was previously one of Heihachi's weak points. This kick is to address that left side.
Them saying what they said about Heihachi and that move covering his weakness. And they gave Kazuya his move, Hamran his low. We could go through every character and talk about the new moves that they were given and how it covers their weakness. But we know that the developers, that is their goal. This isn't a mistake like, oh, we accidentally gave them. No, they said when advertising Heihachi, this move covers his weakness. So in Season 2, when they give all of the characters moves that cover their weakness, which weakness is a part of identity, it's undeniable.
Now we should ask, what even is character identity? What is character weakness? You bring up Asuka, who's long been known for defense. Let's walk through her. So, case study of Asuka's identity. She's now both offensive and defensive. But is that identity destruction or identity evolution? And there's an important difference here. Let's be honest and think about Asuka in Tekken 7. She was B tier, mid tier. She almost never won any major tournaments. She has defensive tools, yes, but they weren't enough to compete with characters like Leroy, Akuma, Geese, or even Julia. So the question becomes, should a character like Asuka be locked in B tier forever? If we claim new offensive tools erase her identity, then we're also saying she must remain stuck in that tier that guarantees she won't win majors forever.
The thing about Asuka is that she is a turtle, and she's just supposed to play keep out. Don't touch me is how I like to describe it. And she still has a lot of that in Season 2. But the thing is that she has this new style of playing, which is offense. So she can, unlike many other characters, go back and forth between playing legit Asuka, turtle, keep out, but then going hyper aggressive, and that hyper aggressive is not supposed to be there. Same thing with Yoshimitsu. Yoshimitsu has to spin, he has to flash. Those are supposed to be there. He's not supposed to get crazy Oki. He's not supposed to get crazy damage. He's not supposed to have crazy pressure. Moves like forward 1+2, back 2-2, heat activate, even flashback 2-2, turns a defensive mechanic into a very busted and powerful offensive mechanic. One of the best defensive attacks in the game, Flash, turns into one of the best pressure tools when it combined with back to 2. And Yoshimitsu's not supposed to do that.
And that's
but
what-
also what he's talking about here with Asuka being a B tier terrible character for the whole entire game. This is something that I was talking about in season 1, is how Asuka's always irrelevant in stories, always terrible at the game, and maybe they should buff her and make her viable. Of course, I was saying it as a joke, but there was some truth to it. But the question then becomes, is the only way to make Asuka buff is to remove her identity? Because that's basically the argument that Bros is making. Bro is making the argument that Asuka, if she didn't get these, overhauls to her identity, then, and she stayed Rushdown, then she would have been low tier forever, right? I mean, I was talking with a pro player who said if the developers didn't change Steve Fox's identity, he wouldn't have been able to keep up. If Steve Fox stayed the counter hit character in this game, I mean, when do you get an opportunity to space and counter hit in this game? Not that often, right? So if they didn't overhaul Steve Fox and make him a Rushdown counter hit, he wouldn't have been able to compete. So there is truth to that. You can't allow Yoshi and Asuka and Steve to be their defensive spacing type of characters, because they would have no space to do that.
Not a fair expectation to the character or to the players who love her. So evolution doesn't equal destruction. So do her new offensive tools change her a bit? Yes, they do, right? But destroy her? No. She still has her defensive strengths, arguably more than most of the cast, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah,
Now,
that is true. That's what I was just talking about. She can still play Asuka, because it's really just an imbalance. You have characters like Yoshi, Asuka, who still have their defensive abilities, and they can play defense whenever they choose, but no other character can.
Is she currently overtuned? Yep, I would agree. She's currently overtuned. Should she be adjusted? Yes, but not back to irrelevance. They shouldn't nerf her so back where this meta doesn't change for her. Otherwise, if it doesn't change for her or any character, then we should just say, well, sorry, Mr. Character, you're always stuck in your tier because we don't want to change your identity. To get back to, I think, what would be a proper concern of yours is, when is a move too much, where it's like drastically changes the character identity, like they are no longer who they are at all. And that's a good question. I would say it's when it covers too many options and it removes counterplay. If you have a move that removes too many options and it removes counterplay, then I would agree with you, and that's kind of a case-by-case basis. Moves that...
Well, see, so this is what I think, right? On the topic of like moves being so powerful to where they're just abused, I mean, how many times do you play against an Asuka player and you hear, aha, poke, aha, poke? Or you play against a Raven and you hear, over here, over here, over here. The fact that you're hearing those same sound cues means that they're spamming them same moves. The move is so powerful, the player is ignoring the whole entire toolkit to spam this one move. I mean, think about law players in the nunchuck. That one tool does everything. When you were far away from the law player, they would have to think about how they wanted to engage. When you were at the wall and trying to stand up, they would think about what they want to do. When they got like a weird float, they would have to think about what they want to do. Now in Tekken 8, the nunchuck covers all of those options and so much more. And that's what I mean when I say one move, it just consumes the whole character.
So a lot of these new moves we're talking about, they're not like that. There is counterplay. That's not the case here. Even Asuka's strong new strings have dock options. Even Wrong's new low can be blocked or crushed. These are not unanswerable tools. So reasonable meta shifts also are healthy for a community. Because do these little shifts shift the meta? Yep, they do. Is that bad? Not at all. Games must evolve to stay alive, otherwise they get stale. And I'm not sure if you've stuck with the game long after it's being updated. People get bored of it. You get bored of it. There needs to be shifts in meta, so there's always kind of discovery. That's kind of the fun of video games too.
Yeah, I agree with the meta shifting and changing and evolving over time, but I mean, it can evolve for the worse, and that's what season 2 did. A lot of people were saying that, season 1 can be fun if they make this change, and they didn't do any of that. We thought them buffing sidestep, the sidestep from crouch and all that was good, until they added plus 5 on block mids into the game that track. You have a stance that have 3 different options, and yes, you can beat all 3 of these options, but those options also counter the weaknesses of the other options. If you try to crouch because you think the high is coming, the mid kills you. If you try to step the high or step the low, the mid kills you. If you try to block the mid, the guard break or the unblockable grab, it kills you. So that's the thing with these stances, is that yes, you can get out of it if you know the specific scenario. Once again, you gotta have a lot of knowledge to know the specific scenarios, because every character has a stance that has like 5 different options. So you gotta know so much about those different options. But if you do know the different option, you still either have to have ungodly like reaction time, or you have to guess which one they're doing. When Heihachi does a heat smash and he dubs and he sits into that stance, what is he gonna do? Launch you, guard break, or grab you? I mean, I don't know if a pro player can react to that, but I know every person online is just guessing. And the fact that every player has to do that on a move so commonly used is what's killing this game.
We love to discover things as video game players, and fighting games allow some of the most richest labbing and discovery and theory craft that you can do. And if it's all figured out, then there's nothing else left to do. So meta shifts like that are good. Also, for Asuka, finally got a chance to be relevant. That is definitely worth something. Competitive matches are still happening. The game isn't broken, it's dynamic, and I think that's really something to think about. Most of the characters didn't have a tier shift. There were a few, arguably Lars, definitely Asuka we can speak to. Are we to say that a character should never change, that they'll always be stuck in their tier? No, that's unreasonable. And yes, a move might be overtuned. Like I said, I myself think she's a bit overtuned.
But also what I will say about characters changing their tiers, and perfect example is my own character Yoshimitsu. Yoshimitsu is the character who needs to stay low tier. He needs to have terrible poking, he needs to have terrible damage, he needs to have terrible everything. And I believe even Harada said this at a certain point in time, because back in older Tekken games, people used to say, why is Yoshimitsu low tier every game? And Harada said something along the lines of like, he needs to be that way. He has very crazy tools, flash, spin, crushing, and if you gave him very solid fundamental Tekken on top of that, he would be ultra powerful. We got a taste of that. All they really did to him was give him very high combo damage and very busted mix-ups. He didn't even have like solid poking and fundamentals. He only had combo damage and Oki, and everyone was crying about it. But the point that I'm making is that sometimes a character needs to stay low tier because it's their identity. We go full circle. Even Harada said this about Yoshimitsu, and considering that Asuka is another heavily defensive character, maybe she's supposed to stay low tier as well.
But they should not nerf these moves so much that she doesn't enjoy some additional success like she's seen. And if the success was overblown, like we'll say like launch Leroy, yeah, obviously, right, that needs to be toned down. But she's not. She's being beat in tournaments. She's doing better in tournaments. So my final thought is old school wisdom. So back in the day, the FGC had a saying, if every character feels OP, the game is probably fun and balanced. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 wasn't a perfect game, but it was legendary. Today we seem to want bland oatmeal instead of a delicious high-quality steak. And I'm not on board with that. It hasn't been identity destruction. It's been identity evolution. And there needs to be evolution. Otherwise, it gets stale and boring.
But the thing about Tekken is that every character is broken in the same way. Every character is broken because they have super oppressive rushdown mix-ups, chip damaging, homing moves. Why couldn't they buff the identities? An example of this, and I know people dislike the move, but this is an example of what I mean. In Tekken 7, Yoshimitsu defense identity was buffed because they gave him a super flash. Paul Phoenix is a character who's known to hit hard, and in Tekken 8, they gave him a cancelable rage art that let him tap into some hard-hitting, damaging combos. That's the rage art system allowing him to tap in to his identity.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I've really enjoyed our discussions because these are good faith discussions and they don't devolve into what we normally see at Twitter, where people are just name calling and things like that. Hopefully between us, we can help level up at least our little part of the discourse and continue this great discussion.